This is Get Real with Bob and Stacy, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacy Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. And our guest today is CarrieAnne Doucette-Lapides, founder of Executive Decision. Welcome to the show, CarrieAnne.
Hi, thank you.
So I want to give everybody some background because it's kind of a unique background. I was like, oh, she'd be kind of cool to hang out with. So CarrieAnne is founder of Executive Decision, a full-service, permanent placement staffing agency based in Norton, Mass. CarrieAnne grew up in Braintree, attended UMass Boston, has spent 20 years of her career in event management and production, and the last 10 years in recruiting and staffing. She began her career in the music industry right out of college as a production assistant for Aerosmith on 2 world tours. Remind me to ask her why she left that. That sounds way more. That sounds really cool. On 2 world tours for Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation, and Pump. She then entered the world of corporate America, managing global conferences within the IT industry. She discovered a passion for recruiting in 2006 and launched her own business, Executive Decision North America, in 2007. She lives in Easton with her husband and 4 children. So first of all, I'm going to start with the lead question. Why are you not with Aerosmith anymore? That sounds way cooler than recruiting.
Well, when you're in your 20s
Yep.
and you can, work 20 hours a day, you can travel.
Gotcha.
You basically can be told what to do and you'll do anything.
Yep.
That's a good thing to do. And I have to say that I was lucky enough to be on the tours where it was their huge comeback.
Mm-hmm.
They were sober. They were really healthy. I mean, It was a tremendous experience. It started like in 87, so I'm dating myself, but it was when Apple computers were all the rage and very few people were, versed in them.
Right.
So that was really why I got hired. I looked like a groupie, but I knew how to work a Mac. So that was truly the long and short of it. It was amazing. It was everything everybody would think it was, and it was a lot of fun. But eventually, you want to have a life. And it launched my event management career, taught me a ton about production, organization, as far as being able to juggle a million things and really understand people's needs. And it was, you really can't stay in that business for 10 or 20 years if you're not on stage and it's not your life.
Right.
So there's clear burnout. And it wasn't so much it was burnout for me, it was just I wanted to stop traveling and I wanted to just have a quote-unquote normal life.
Right.
It also opened a ton of doors. So what happened for me was in my late 20s, I was able to go and work for these huge software companies and make these CEOs feel like rock stars with cool production and lots of screens and music and pyro. So it was a very fortunate transition for me. So that's pretty much why I left.
That sounds cool. Can you still do that? Because I want to have an event with pyrotechnics. That sounds awesome.
I'm so into the pyro. Absolutely, yes.
Done. I am absolutely putting CarrieAnne into my cell phone right now. So
when I tell you my kids' birthday parties were so off the charts, I can't even tell you.
Bet.
So are we going to do pyrotechnics at your next indoor event, Stacy?
I need to do something cool. This sounds amazing. I want to have an awesome event
That'd be cool.
with all of it. So I'm going to call CarrieAnne.
I'll hook you up, no doubt.
So let's talk about Executive Decision. Why are headhunters and recruiters necessary?
So they're very necessary on both sides of the business. So there's the clients and there's the candidates. And the clients, invest a lot of money in onboarding, in training, in salaries. And they really need to get the production and the ROI, quite frankly, that they invest in that. And it's hard to find the right person. It's hard to find the people that either share your passion, understand your culture, have the skill set, and have the work ethic that it takes to help your business grow. Most people have stuff going on that stands in their way, or they can really, they can get themselves through the interview process and they can say they can do all these kind of things, but then once they get in that seat and they can't do it, you're even further behind. what a good headhunter recruiter will do is we'll do all that really tedious groundwork for you, and it'll talk to hundreds of people. It will read, read hundreds of resumes, and we'll drill down. So say we read 100 resumes, there might only be 5 good people in that pile.
Right.
But we have done that. So we've sort of, sifted through, found the rock stars, really gotten to know those rock stars and know who's really a good fit and who's not, because if you know your client, you know who fits in their company, who doesn't. On the other side, for a candidate, it's probably more important on the candidate side, to be quite honest, because we open doors, we get you in front of the right people, and we negotiate for you. I can call a hiring manager at pretty much any company because of the tools I have and the network I have. I can at least email a resume and get it in front of a hiring manager,
right,
where regular candidates have to send it into cyberspace and apply online. No one ever sees it, and it goes nowhere. It's very frustrating. They waste months and months. I can also give the inside scoop on what they're really looking for, and for some reason, it's interesting, unless you have a sales background, you can sell anything, negotiate anything, but you're very uncomfortable doing it about yourself.
right.
So if you're making $100,000 and this role asks you if you'll take the role for $80,000, for some reason you feel all intimidated and will say yes. Where if I'm negotiating for you, I will tell them, listen, person can't take it for less than $120. And that's what you go in as.
That's so interesting.
There's a tremendous benefit to working with a headhunter who's dedicated to your success.
Huh. I mean, you just hit on so many points, because I say that in real estate too, that the reason you want an agent is you do not want to be negotiating your own deal, because you're not going to make the best bargain for yourself. And that's the same when it comes to negotiating for a position, but also in just marketing somebody that is available for a job to the right companies. I wrote an article on LinkedIn last year, and the article was, "This is why I threw your resume in my trash." And
It was a good article.
And it had over 10,000 views and shares. It was my most popular article I've ever written, because
Awesome.
I had put a job out, and the trash you get, that's why you need to hire a company like yours, because the trash that comes through, it's immense. Like hundreds upon hundreds of resumes, and it's like 95% garbage, that you need somebody that's a professional that can go through all of it, weed it down to the real candidates that are in there.
That's a good point, because every time we post an online ad, we end up getting like 500 resumes.
Yeah.
And the time it takes to go through to pick out the ones that are worth an interview is immense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so on both sides, what's unfair is nobody has time to read all those resumes, and it's really unfair. So on the client side, I'll say, listen, if you get 500 resumes, but your ideal candidate is number 475, you're never going to see it.
Right.
So you're never going to know. And on the other side, same thing for the candidate. Unfortunately, no one's ever going to see it. I learned when how I started recruiting was I went to Robert Half. I was doing tons of corporate events, and I loved it. It was great, and I had just had children, and they were, 3 and 4 or 5 years old, and it was really time to get off a plane, even though I worked from home. And I went to them to find a nice, respectable office 9-to-5 job, which is a joke to think I would ever be able to do that, because I don't understand what a clock is. So I went there looking for a nice job, and they basically recruited me to be a recruiter. I loved it. It was an incredible boot camp. It was a very fast-moving train. But in learning accounting positions, which is really what they specialize in, and is accounting and finance, I would post jobs for bookkeepers. I would post jobs for, accounts payable people. I'd literally get 100 resumes from bartenders who closed their drawer out at the end of the night and thought that they were accountants.
Right.
And not that there's anything, wrong with being an awesome bartender, but you're not an accountant.
Right.
I mean, now in my hospitality situation and contacts, please, bartenders that are closing down at the night and can be a future food and beverage manager, send me your resume, but
Right.
don't send it to me to be an accountant.
Right.
You know?
So it's interesting. Do you do I'm guessing you do the background checks. I had somebody I hired last year for an administrative position. It was a couple of years ago. And I was so excited. I hit it off with her at the interview. And I was never up until this point good at like calling on references. And the first day she was in the office, one of my agents came over to me and he's like, "Oh, that's awesome that you hired Nancy. She's out of prison." I'm like, I guess she.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Oh, that really happened?
Oh yeah, I Googled her and she was like a white collar criminal.
Oh, that's not good.
And then there's legal issues in getting them out too once
Yes.
you've hired them. So
Well,
I'm like,
it's like trying to evict someone who won't pay their rent for a year.
Yes.
First of all, you always have to do the references. The references are huge, and we do formal background criminal checks. We do, unfortunately, I don't agree with this practice, but it is the practice now that almost every company will do a financial background check as well. They do a credit check.
Yeah.
I feel that's invasive, yet I do understand if you have, if you're being hired to handle the company funds, I guess you should be able to have your own act together. I get it, but the criminal check I get 100%.
Right.
So we do full criminal, we do background, and everyone does a drug test.
Right.
So yes, you absolutely have to. That's part of the service. That's a part of the reason why companies will pay a fee is because they skip over all that, right? So all the due diligence has absolutely been done. I have a similar funny story, although not funny. It's funny to me. So I have a friend who's a headhunter who works for a big agency and placed a controller with a company and did the background check because that's part of what big agencies do. Absolutely. Person went in, and the client sent her via text a photo and a news clip from on the internet about really the person that they had just hired being arrested for having an illegal marijuana farm.
Oh God!
And clearly, like the footage from the news, and the person had passed the background check, and come to find out that it was just that the case was still pending. But yes, they were arrested, and they had to let the person go. But because they're controlling all of the money, and the person that person was with was a known drug dealer who had done time. So you got to do those background checks, and you got to triple check them sometimes.
Yes. Interestingly, this woman who was the criminal that I hired, she gave me a resume, and it had her previous employers on there. So I'm like, just for the heck of it, I'm going to call the previous. This was after the fact, so I have that fact. By that point, I knew. So
now you just have to know the backstory.
Yeah, so I called the references, and the references are like, "Oh no, she's a criminal. She stole money from us." So she didn't even put fake. If I had just simply made a phone call, I would have avoided a big mess. But
that's too bad.
And I think, we only have a few minutes left, but I think also the value that having a professional staffing agency brings to the table is I've seen just in my own business, there are tons of people that are unbelievably good at interviewing and not necessarily good at the job. And I'm sure you guys have a way of figuring out who the real good employees are.
Absolutely. It's funny you would say that because that is the case, and you can see through that in your own phone screening. But what's interesting is the complete opposite is what's important to a good qualified candidate. So I find that people that are amazing at their jobs are horrible at interviewing.
Right.
So they need coaching. They need strategic conversations that either can get in their head and get rid of their nerves or to make sure that they understand why they're there and that it's not inappropriate to toot your own horn and to sing your own praises, because that is where it is appropriate. If you don't tell people how great you are, if you really are, then they're never going to know. So it's not the time to be modest. It's a job to interview. It's a skill set, and it's something that someone does have to teach you. It's not something that anybody can do, which is why it's so intimidating to a lot of people who have luckily been employed for a very long time at companies and then find themselves on the market That's their biggest fear, is the interview. And so a really good, caring, dedicated recruiter can really help a person through that and put them at ease, help them even enjoy it, and, really ramp up their skill set in that.
So for people listening, you get hired by employers looking to fill a position, but also potentially from candidates who are looking for a new job. Is that correct?
Well, there's no hire on the candidate side, so no one should ever be charged on the candidate side if you're looking for a job. You shouldn't even be charged to have somebody redo your resume. A good agency will redo your resume and make it look beautiful for you and present that, and then send it back to you to make sure that you agree with everything that we have sort of reformatted. So there's never a cost to the candidate. The companies that hire, they pay the fee. The fee is usually based on a percentage of whatever the base salary is. That's a negotiated individual situation. But no, candidates, absolutely, positively, it is just a free benefit for them, and there's honestly no reason to not give a good recruiter a shot. The difference is that a lot of people have had bad experiences with big agencies. They kind of waste your time. Boutique agencies don't. We truly don't, and that's the difference. And that's why people should give it a shot first with a smaller agency.
Awesome stuff. This is CarrieAnne Doucette-Lapides from Executive Decision. Where can people find out more about your company?
Absolutely. So they can go to www.exec-decision.com, exec-decision.com. I am on LinkedIn, and we have a great website, and all the contact and links are right there. And I would love to hear from everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, CarrieAnne.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Have an awesome day.
You too. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.